Imagine this. Before gods ruled the heavens, before stars were even born in the imagination of ancient Greece, the world already belonged to others, to beings vast and unyielding, the Titans, giants of impossible scale, immortal and ancient, older even than the flow of time itself. Their story ended so suddenly, so violently, that the traces of their reign dissolved into nothing but a whisper carried through myth. And yet, you carry them with you, in your bones, in your language, in the fragments of stories passed down through centuries. The Titans live on in the thunder that shakes your windows, in the restless storms over the ocean, in the quiver of the earth beneath your feet. Even now, as you lay down to rest, your body cradled in the comfort of the modern world, you are still lying upon a planet shaped by their hands, ruled once by their power, and haunted by their fall. Tonight, you will hear their tale. The rise and collapse of the first rulers of existence, from the birth of chaos, when there was only darkness and silence, to the dawn of Gaia and Uranus, the earth and sky, who embraced and brought forth children so vast, so fearsome, that even gods trembled before them. And at last, to the Titanomachy, the great war that tore the heavens apart and determined the destiny of the cosmos. But for now, close your eyes, just for a moment. Breathe in slowly, and let the weight of the day begin to melt away. The world you know is fading. The light of your room dims into twilight, and gently, softly, we open the first door into an age before gods, before humankind, when the universe itself was young, and the Titans still walked in silence and power. In the beginning, there was silence, not the quiet you know, not the hush of a late evening after the city has gone to sleep. This silence was deeper, heavy, a silence that pressed against the edges of eternity, filling every corner with absence. It was the breathless stillness of chaos, cold, formless, endless. Yet even in that void, there was a seed of change. Imagine the faintest ripple in dark waters, the very first stirring of a wind no one had yet felt. From that trembling, the universe began to awaken. You can almost smell it. The damp breath of newborn earth, rich and raw, as if stone itself exhaled. The wetness of soil that had never been touched. The sharp mineral tang rising from deep fissures where molten fire licked against rock. The air, heavy with the scent of ash, brimstone, and rain that had not yet fallen. Far beneath, oceans churned in their infancy. They did not yet have names, nor shores to contain them. Only the wild thunder of water colliding with itself, echoing in the hollow chambers of the earth. Above, volcanoes glowed like wounded giants, their light spilling through cracks in the young horizon, red and gold against the endless black. The world smelled of smoke and salt, of wet stone and fire. And then, the first shapes began to rise. Gaia, the earth, vast and steady, stretched her body into mountains, her skin clothed in forests not yet imagined. She was solid, fertile, the mother of all things. Above her, Uranus, the sky, spread himself in a canopy of stars that were not yet lit, wrapping Gaia in an eternal embrace of pressure and light. Together, earth and sky were bound, heavy, eternal, inseparable. Their union hummed with a force that vibrated through the fabric of the newborn cosmos. From this embrace came the first children, the Titans. Beings of impossible scale, vast beyond measure, born from earth and sky. Their forms were towering, their power woven into the bones of the world itself. Each one carried the strength of mountains, the depth of seas, the endlessness of the horizon. They were not yet gods, nor men, but something older, stranger. Their presence was a gravity of its own, terrifying, magnificent, eternal. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself lying not in your bed, but on a floor of straw inside a home that does not yet exist. Imagine the air, damp and sharp, filled with the sound of distant rumbling seas. Somewhere, far off, a volcano groans and sighs, spilling its fiery breath into the sky. You can feel the ground beneath you still warm, still trembling with the echoes of chaos, as if the universe has only just begun to find its rhythm. The Titans open their eyes. The earth shudders as they move. The sky bends to hold them. And in the stillness between their breaths, the world waits, heavy with possibility. I speak as the keeper of memories, softly turning the oldest pages. Long before thunder had a name, before the first shepherd counted stars, there were the elder ones, Titans whose breath was weather, whose steps were mountain chains, whose thoughts ran deeper than oceans. They did not rush, because eternity has no need to hurry, and yet, in their slow and endless days, a single heartbeat of fear would one night change the order of all things. First, Oceanus. Imagine a river so wide it circles the world, a ring of quiet power. He is not the sea you know, restless and breaking. Oceanus is a steady current at the edge of everything, a calm perimeter that listens. When he moves, the tide inside your own chest follows. Inhale, exhale, a shoreline of breath. He watches rather than rules. If you placed your ear to the earth's rim, you might hear his patient murmur, "Let all things flow. Let all things return." Hyperion stands where morning begins. He is brightness not yet blinding, the warm shoulder of dawn. He carries within him the idea of light, how it pours, how it reveals, how it blesses a field of grain or lays a silver road across water. His presence is the hush just before sunrise when birds consider singing. When Hyperion looks upon the world, shadows shiver and arrange themselves more gently. Chaos is a pole around which thoughts can turn. He is the axis of insight, the still point that allows the sky to spin. In him, knowledge does not come as noise. It settles like dust on a quiet table, each mote a star catalogued in silence. It is Coius who teaches that truth speaks softly and that wisdom is a kind of listening. Creus guards the edges. He is the border where maps grow pale and uncertain, where the next step into the night asks for courage. He sets the markers, the ram's bold leap in the spring sky, the first wind that pushes a ship from harbor. Crius is the chill on your skin when you stand on a cliff at dusk, drawn toward the open dark and yet held back by a tender, necessary fear. Themis carries balance in both hands. In her, law is not a cage, but a lullaby that helps the world remember its rhythm. She knows the weight of mercy and the weight of consequence, and how to place them so that the scales do not tremble. When she speaks, tempests quiet, and even grief finds a place to rest. And Rhea is the soft thunder of life beginning. She is the pulse beneath the mountain, the warmth at the center of stone. She walks with lions and milk and lullabies. She is the ark of beginnings, the mother who remembers every name. When she touches a hillside, it learns the green language of spring. When she sings, seeds open their eyes. Among them moves Cronus, the youngest of the great brood, keen and careful, with hands that shape the horizon and a gaze that measures fate itself. In him is the strength of freshly broken rock and the sharpness of a new-made blade. He is not cruel by habit, nor gentle by temperament. He is exact, and his exactness becomes the angle by which an age will tilt. When he speaks, the air seems to slope toward decision. For a time, the long golden time, their household holds. Earth is broad-shouldered and generous. Sky is sweeping and blue. Rivers braid themselves like sleep-soft hair. There is work to do, placing rivers, lifting mountain spines, teaching the newborn winds the boundaries of their play. It is a family of immensities, and in their vastness they find a kind of ease. But under the ease, a stone begins to turn. Prophecy arrives, not as a trumpet, but as a whisper in the dark corridors of the world. It slides along the roots of trees and settles in the folds of Rhea's robe. The words are simple and terrifying in their simplicity. As the Son unseated the Father, so shall the Son unseat the Son. Fate, in other voices, had already moved once. Uranus unseated by Cronus with the cold curve of an adamantine sickle. Now the whisper points forward with the same calm certainty. Cronus hears it first, in the way Themis pauses before answering a question, in the way Oceanus's eyes dim, thoughtful at the far rim of the earth. He hears it in the hush that follows Hyperion's dawn, a thin shadow that should not be there. He thinks, it is only a rumor. He thinks, it is only fear looking for a name. He thinks, and in the space between his thoughts, the whisper becomes a thread wound around his heart. He loves Rhea. This is the part the old poems often leave pale, but let it be bright. He loves the way her laughter warms the coldest gorge, the way her patience gathers storms and rocks them to sleep, the way she can stand at the shore of Oceanus and hear in that colossal current the simple word, home. In quieter hours, Cronus lays his scythe aside and listens to Rhea speak of the children they will raise, the order they will keep, the meadows where little feet will find their way. He believes her. He wants to be the steady hand on the world's shoulder. But the whisper persists. The first child comes, and the world sighs with Rhea. She cradles a daughter, fire-lit, bright with promise. Some will call her Hestia. A hush falls. Themis smiles. Oceanus murmurs blessing. Hyperion threads a halo of warmth around the tiny face. Cronus watches. In her small fist, he imagines the curve of the future tightening. Prophecy is a delicate seed, but in his mind it is already a tree. Fear is a gardener whose hands never tire. He acts. The story says he swallows the child, and we, who tell this to lull the night, will not dwell on the terror of that moment. Think of it instead as a desperate folding away, a frantic attempt to keep what he loves from being lost. He hides Hestia within himself as if he could tuck the future into a pocket and keep it from the wind. Rhea's cry shakes the rafters of the world. She looks at Cronus and sees not a monster, but a man taken by a storm of his own making. Days pass. Another child, Demeter, arrives with the smell of wheat and summer fields. The same fear, the same act. Then Hera, bright and keen. Then Hades, whose gaze already holds the gentle gravity of endings. Then Poseidon, a heartbeat echo of the seas. Each time Rhea pleads, each time Cronus reaches for safety and finds only the clenched fist of dread. He walks the longest corridors at night, fingers tracing the cold stone of destiny's walls. He does not sleep. The world, sensing his unrest, twists a little. Rivers find new channels, and the wind forgets the names of some old companion stars. Those who love him try to reach him in the ways they know. Themis speaks of balance, of how control that tightens becomes a snare. Oceanus tells him that every current must eventually let go and return, and that hoarded waters grow stagnant. Coeus offers a thought. A prophecy is not a chain. It is a lamp. It shows you a path, but does not make you walk it. Hyperion opens the dawn over Cronus's sleepless face, warm as a hand on a fevered brow. Creus stands with him on a high ridge at evening and points to the farthest lanterns in the sky. Edges are not prisons. They are invitations. Rhea says little at first. She moves through her grief like a meadow in wind, bending, not breaking. When she speaks, it is to ask the simplest question in the world. What kind of father do you wish to be? The question sits between them like a stone neither can lift. Cronus is not made only of fear. He is also made of tenderness, the kind that cannot find a way out. He brushes Rhea's hair with earth-wide hands and tells her stories of calmer ages. He swears that he will find a way to quiet destiny, to outlisten the whisper. He tries to be gentle. But when the next birth approaches, prophecy claps its hand over his heart, and his gentleness turns to iron. Rhea travels to speak with Gaia, the mother beneath all mothers. She goes alone, through valleys that remember her steps and lift mist to cool her cheeks. In the deep place where roots are thick as pillars, Gaia listens without surprise. The earth has heard every kind of sorrow. It knows the shape of this one. Gaia's counsel is plain. Fear cannot be fed. Feed it, and it will ask for more. She lifts a rough, heavy shape from the earth's pocket, a stone shaped with the care of mountains, and wraps it in soft cloth. There is one more child coming. Save him. Let the story turn. Rhea nods, and in the nod is a decision older than regret. When the hour comes, she goes to a cave whose mouth looks east. The air smells of wild herbs and goat's milk. The inside of the cave is warm as a cupped hand. A goat, Amalthea, draws near, eyes mild as moonlit water. Outside, the curettes, fierce and kind, dancers in bronze, begin their dance, their shields clashing in a rhythm like rain on 1,000 rooftops, loud enough to hide a newborn's cry. Rhea presses her palms to the cool floor and breathes. A child comes, small and shining, with eyes that look like the first morning. She names him Zeus, but speaks the name only to herself and to the listening stone. She swaddles the stone and holds it close, and its weight is a lesson. Truth does not always feel like truth at first. She carries the bundle to Cronus. He takes it, hands shaking, a father receiving what he believes is his own child. He performs, once again, his grim refusal of fate. The cave is quiet. Outside, the bronze music fills the valley, and Rhea returns to the small, hidden cradle where Amalthea's milk is warm and sweet, and the boy's breath is the tiniest tide. Cronus feels, for a moment, relief as clean as snowfall. He thinks he has outrun the lamp of prophecy. He thinks he has secured a future that will not betray him. He walks into Hyperion's morning with his shoulders lower, and for a few days, the winds remember their songs. But fear is a clever artisan. It carves a door and walks back in. At night, in the long halls, where even echoes tire, Cronus hears something, a faint clatter, a distant jubilant rhythm, like shields meeting shields. And in that shimmer of sound, doubt wakes. He returns to Themis, to Oceanus, to the patient counsel of Coeus. They place words before him like stepping stones, but words are small when you are standing in the floodplain of your own dread. Rhea does not argue. She tends to the child. She sings the old syllables that soften stone and call gentleness into being. She moves with quiet swiftness, small hands bathed, a brow kissed, a cradle rocked. The cave learns the measure of her feet. the air remembers her voice. When the child sleeps, she watches the mouth of the cave and presses her palm to the earth in gratitude. It answers with a steady, mountain-deep hum. The hum says, "You are not alone." Time extends. Not human time, but the slow time of folk tales and mountains. Zeus grows. He learns to laugh at goat bells. He learns the shape of his mother's shadow on the cave wall. He reaches for the bronze sweet rhythm of the curetes and claps in delight when sound bursts like bright birds across the air. Rhea's eyes, once ravaged by loss, begin to carry light again. Grief does not leave. It changes posture, sitting a little further back from the fire. Meanwhile, the household of Titans continues its stately turning. Oceanus holds the perimeter. Hyperion pours morning and gathers evening. Coeus traces the quiet arithmetic of stars. Creus keeps the thresholds. Themis maintains the law by which rivers do not climb mountains, and mountains do not slide into the sky. They love Cronus still. Love does not vanish when the loved one loses his way. It waits, sometimes long enough to seem like stone. And Cronus? He is a man made of weather. Some days, he is all blue, firm, and endless. Other days, he is thunder pressed tight behind his teeth. He walks the borders of his realm and counts them the way a worried father counts the turns of a key in a lock. He returns to Rhea's side often and tries, in small, awkward gestures, to be the partner she deserves. A hand on her shoulder, an attempt at shared laughter, a question asked without armor. He is no villain in his own mind. Few are. He is only trying, with all the blunt tools of power, to secure a peace he can trust. And yet, there is a moment, every story has one, when the line you are walking narrows to a thread, and the only way forward is to become smaller, lighter, different. Cronus feels that moment approach, like weather from a far range. He senses in his bones that the world is not a vault to be sealed, but a garden to be tended, and that he has been guarding it with doors rather than with open hands. Themis, seeing the shift, smiles a little, not with triumph, but with relief. Oceanus deepens his current. He has seen many kings find this brink. In a twilight room, where the air smells of cooled stone, Rhea and Cronus sit without speaking. Between them, the silence is not hostile. It is a field where something might grow. Rhea does what she has always done best. She makes a space where the world can change. After a while, she tells a story, not of prophecy, not of fear, but of a small child laughing at a goat bell. She describes the laugh carefully, as if setting a delicate cup on a shelf. Cronus listens, and in his listening, a door he did not know he had begins to open. If you lean close now, you can hear the future approaching on soft feet. It is not the crash of armies or the blaze of lightning. It is a mother's song in a cave, a boy's breath at rest, a father taking one long, honest breath and allowing it to leave without clutching at it. The personal becomes the pivot of the cosmic, and the cosmic bends low to meet the personal. This is how worlds change, not only in wars, but in rooms where two people sit quietly and let truth stand between them, unarmed. Night wraps its shawl more tightly around the mountains. The cave glows faintly from a small, carefully kept flame. Amalthea shifts, gentle as a dream. The curate's dance slows. Shields kiss rather than clash. The river around the world continues its endless walk. The axis of thought holds. The edge is still the edge, but it terrifies less. It invites more. The scales rest, perfectly still, in Themis's open hands. Rhea lifts her child and feels, for the first time since the births before, a pure chord of hope vibrate through her. It is not naive. It knows of grief. It knows of fear. But hope, like a spring, rises from under all that weight and waters the ground anyway. She hums a melody older than speech, and the cave hums with her. And Cronus, standing at a threshold he cannot yet name, looks into the long corridor of tomorrow. He is still afraid, but fear has been seen, and when fear is seen, it becomes part of the room rather than the architect of it. On some near morning, he will call for counsel again. On some near evening, he will choose a different sort of strength. The whisper of prophecy still moves, a lamp, not a chain. And under its pale, patient light, a family prepares, each in their way, for the turn of an age. For now, let us close this chapter with quiet hands. Rhea rocks the child. The world breathes. The old house of the Titans sleeps. Not well, but honestly, which is the beginning of rest. And in that honest sleep, the seeds of mercy and change are pressed deeper into the soil, warm and waiting, exactly as the mother of all mothers intended. I am still the keeper of memories, and I will speak more softly now, as if we are walking through a vast house at night, touching the walls with our fingertips, learning the shape of rooms by listening to their echoes. The age of the Titans was not only a family story, it was a society, an order laid like stone upon stone. It had corridors of custom, balconies of law, and a roof of constant sky. To understand how it would one day crack, we must first feel the weight of how carefully it was built. In the Titan world, order and fear slept in the same bed. Order was Themis's gentle hand smoothing the world's hair, setting the table with seasons and measures. When rivers would swell, when winds would rest, when seeds should slip quietly into the dark, and when green should return. Her law was a lullaby, predictable, repeating, faithful, and under it, even storms learned where to kneel. But fear stood nearby, like a silent sentinel, a tall shadow in the doorway. Not the wild, panicked fear of beasts, but a Templar's fear, the kind that says, keep still, keep safe, keep control. This fear wore Cronus's face more and more. It was the iron hinge on every door, the extra lock on every chest of prophecy. Every Titan held a domain, and the society formed a net of elemental ministries so old they felt like weather. Oceanus and Tethys tended the world's waters. He the encircling river that kept everything within its cool blue arm. She the countless streams and springs that braided through valleys and under hills. When they worked, the air smelled of wet stone and clean moss. The sound was steady, like a heart that has known no worry. Hyperion and Rhea guided light. They understood not just brightness, but courtesy. How dawn should not startle a sleeping bird. How twilight should show mercy to tired eyes. Coeus and Phoebe presided over knowledge and its mirror, recollection. They kept quiet libraries in the sky, where each star was a thought returning to its place. Rhea stewarded boundaries and beginnings, the edges where stories set out. Rhea nurtured life in any form that asked her. Themis tuned the law until the world hummed true. There were festivals in that old order, not festivals as human towns will know them, with music and bread and lanterns, but grand, slow ceremonies woven into the earth. When a mountain finished rising, Hyperion would pour a pale gold morning across its shoulders, and the hawks would sweep down in a single silver curve. When a river found its mouth, Oceanus would open his arms, and at the joining, there would be a moment of such calm clarity that even a stone might have felt, for an instant, the desire to float. This was the society's heartbeat. Duties kept, greetings exchanged, balance observed. It made a music of continuity, the soft drum of everything doing what it should. And yet, in corridors where even echoes went barefoot, Titans also bargained, whispered, remembered, forgot. Alliances formed like constellations, patterns that seemed inevitable when seen from far away, but up close were choices, small and human at their core. Oceanus and Tethys stood often with Themis. Water and law were old friends, each carving channels the other could follow. Coeus and Phoebe stood with them too, for law without memory is a door without hinges, and memory without law is a library open to the wind. Hyperion and Thea were more independent, content to wash the world in their courtesies, lighting truth without insisting upon it. Creus walked the perimeter, a border keeper's solitary life, friendly to all, beholden to none. There were old secrets too. Do not worry, we will open them as if lifting lids in a nursery where children sleep. Long before Cronus took the throne, our world had been bruised by another kind of fear, Uranus's dread of his own offspring. In those days, the firstborn of earth and sky, the Cyclopes with thunder in their hands, the 100-handed who could steady a trembling horizon, were hidden away, buried in the basement of the cosmos, their gifts muffled beneath layers of stone. That wound never healed cleanly. It became a hush that lived in the corners of every hall. Titans would pass a certain cliff and, without knowing why, speak softer. They would cross a particular valley and feel their steps grow careful. The house remembered, Rhea remembered, Gaia most of all. When Cronus rose and the old father fell, some locks were changed, some doors opened, some remained closed. In public speech, the Titans called it reform. In private, among the careful, it was called rearrangement. Even kindness, once entangled with fear, can act like a jailer who smiles. Cronus believed he could keep fate best if every gift in the world had a label, a shelf, a key. The social order reflected the shape of that belief. Councils were held at slow intervals, measured not by moons, but by the way shadows shortened and grew on the spines of mountains. Themis presided, calm as a still lake. Topics were predictable. The winter wind's roots, the path of migrating stars. How much thunder to lend the valleys this year. Cronus would sit slightly apart, a scythe resting across his knees, his attention a tight, bright bead. He preferred matters that could be weighed. He liked edges. He distrusted open fields. In the margins of this public life, alliances and small betrayals moved like fish in a deep river. Themis kept her counsel with Oceanus because water loves law, and law, water. Phoebe and Coeus, keepers of night's wisdom, carried star letters to Rhea about omens too tender to be spoken aloud in the day. Thea sometimes refused a dawn if the world had not yet repented enough of its harshness. She would hold back light until tempers cooled. Hyperion only smiled and waited. Creus, walking the borderlands, saw messengers pass under his stars bearing news thick with caution. A covenant here, a grievance there, a question about whether old doors might be opened again. Rhea, in this social fabric, was a hearth and a harbor. Even those who could move mountain ranges in a day would find their steps slowing as they neared her halls. There, hospitality was not performance, but breath, a warm, steady exchange. She gathered grievances and rinsed them in patience. She taught the storm gods who would one day be her grandchildren that a hand resting on a table can be more powerful than a hand clenched on a sword. Her rooms smelled of milk and cedar. Her floors remembered the footfalls of sorrow. and did not shame it. Some say, justice comes blindfolded. In Rhea's house, justice came with its eyes open and its voice low. But fear is a quiet architect. While Themis conducted, and Oceanus encircled, and Rhea mothered, Cronus tightened. Not openly. Open force is noisy, and soon tires itself. Instead, he straightened the shelves of fate. He aligned the measurements of time so that they fit better into his grip. He visited the star libraries more often and asked Coeus questions that sounded like curiosity but felt like keys sliding into locks. He walked with Creus and had him redraw the borders of certain territories. Not a wall, just a line a little darker than before. The society took note, but customs are comfortable blankets. Most pulled them higher and went back to sleep. And yet, there were murmurs, soft, persistent. Tethys asked Oceanus if the world was flowing or merely circling. Themis weighed 2 pebbles in her palm and found one suddenly heavy with consequences she could not yet name. Phoebe wrote a single word on the inside of the night, turn, and watched how the constellations shivered, then pretended not to. The children, the ones swallowed, the ones saved, were turning into pressure in the house. You have felt such pressure in human homes. The muffled thumps of unspoken truths. The way laughter in the kitchen grows brittle. The way doors shut a little too carefully. The swallowed Olympians were not dead but held, their essence humming inside Cronus like locked rooms where music plays at a distance. That hum changed the tempo of the world. Sometimes, when Cronus spoke, an echo came back that wasn't his. When he slept, he dreamed of halls where small feet ran and the walls themselves knew their names. He woke and told no one. A new generation was rising at the edges, and with it, a new style of being. If the Titans were seasons, the coming gods were weather. Quicker, more sudden, intimate with change. They would not only keep the sun's path, they would drive it. They would not only count the hours, they would argue with them. Where Titan society loved bulk and endurance. Mountains, oceans, the great turning. Olympian energy loved gesture and decision. The small cut that redirects a river. The lightning that makes a night remember itself. The contrast grew clearer every day. Old world, like a stone hall with wide pillars. New world, like a swift road laid between busy towns. This is not disdain. The old hall was beautiful. Its pillars were carved with patience, its stones set with love. But because it did not learn to open its windows, the air inside became heavy. Themis, who could feel imbalance before any leaf trembled, began to visit Rhea more often. They spoke of breath, how worlds, like bodies, must exhale as well as inhale. Oceanus listened from the doorway, as rivers do, absorbing everything, saying little. Hyperion noticed that dawn sometimes wanted to come earlier than the law allowed. Coeus measured the angle by which destiny leaned and set it down in his quiet ledger. A degree, no more. But a degree is how continents choose their climates. There were forbidden meetings, not because anyone declared them, but because the air around them grew charged and cautious. Phoebe and Thea sat together under a sky not yet morning, and asked how light might be given without burning. Creus taught a cohort of threshold keepers how to stand watch not at walls, but at possibilities. Themis spoke with a trio of soft-voiced weavers, you may call them the Moirai, about patterns in which mercy and boundary could be threaded without weakening either. They drank from a cold spring and said nothing aloud that would startle fate. Near the rim of the world, Rhea's cave glowed with a small, attentive flame. Zeus grew like a question gathering courage. The Curetes danced less loudly now. The child slept deeper, and even Bronze learned to hush. Amalthea grazed near the mouth of the cave. Sometimes the boy tugged gently at her beard and laughed in a way that made the air feel newly washed. Rhea kept secrets the way the sea keeps ships afloat, not by hiding them, but by bearing them. Inside Cronus's house, the social tapestry began to pucker. A rumor that had been content to stay a shadow took on shape. Some titans, loyal, tired, and full of old promises, stood closer to their king, mistaking stillness for safety. Others, a smaller number, quick-eyed and listening, felt the tide pulling backward before a larger wave. Oceanus remained a circle. Circles make poor armies. Themis did what law does at its best. She went on tuning the world so that when the crash came, things would break cleanly rather than shatter. Coeus and Phoebe wrote their quiet notes. Creus lit small lamps along the edges, just in case anyone needed to find their way at night. The contrast between old and new sharpened like morning on a blade. In Titan Council, decisions arrived like winter, slow, inevitable, announced by distant geese and long coats. In the young, hidden places of the world, decisions arrived like rain, sudden, persuasive, teaching dry earth how to drink. Where Titans favored continuance, the children of Rhea will favor choice. Where Titans believed wisdom was heavy, the new gods would learn that sometimes wisdom is swift. Even the way sound moved was different. Titan speech was a low bell. Olympian speech would be a silver string, taut and bright. Do not be alarmed. We are still speaking in a sleep-friendly room. The catastrophe that approaches is not a scream at the window. It is a change of pressure, a weather front moving in with distant thunder that comforts as much as it warns. You know this feeling from your own life. A job that is ending, a child who has outgrown a small chair, a habit loosening its hold. It is the tenderness and ache of becoming. In the last councils before the turn, Themis made a practice of ending meetings with silence rather than decree. Into that silence, each Titan said a single thought, as one might set a candle on water. Oceanus, let what is held too tightly flow again. Tethys, let small streams find their seas. Hyperion, let light arrive without tearing. Thea, let eyes open gently. Coeus, let the truth be bright, not burning. Phoebe, let memory become a bridge, not a chain. Creus, let thresholds be doors, not walls. Rhea, let love stand guard without a sword. Themis, let balance choose mercy when it can. Cronus placed no candle. He stood apart, watching the little flames turn, his face lit in pieces. Fear told him that even candles can start fires. Love told him they keep rooms warm. He held both voices at once, and it made him very still. As the gods' children grew, some locked within, one laughing in a cave, the social world of the Titans subtly tilted. Messengers began to hedge their words. The wind, which had once carried news openly along the ridgelines, started to set it down in the shadows of trees. Even festivals changed character. In the dawn ceremonies, Hyperion's light now arrived with a faint tremor, as if the day itself were stepping onto a bridge that swayed. At river junctions, Oceanus and Tethys noticed strange eddies, where there had never been eddies before. Little back currents that tugged at leaves and at thoughts. Themis's scales remained level, yet the weights themselves were changing grain by grain. One evening, in a courtyard paved with stones smooth as sleep, Rhea and Themis stood beneath a fig tree and watched a wind that did not move its leaves. Law can carry a child only so far, Themis said. Then choice must walk. Rhea nodded and did not say the child's name. The fig tree lifted a single leaf and set it down again. In the borderlands, Creus met Cous, where a ridge fell away into starry dark. Edges used to be comfort, a place to rest your back, Creus said. Now, they are invitations. Cous smiled his small, exact smile. An invitation, he said, is the most polite kind of challenge. Phoebe wrote a shorter word on the inside of the night. Soon. The society held. It is important to say that. Societies hold right up until they do not, and the holding matters. It keeps bread on tables and rivers in banks. But in the cellars of the world, the forbidden rooms breathed. The buried crafts and the bound strengths shifted in their sleep. They turned toward the sound of a woman singing to a child, and the song threaded through stone like a patient river. Cronus felt it. He felt everything. That is the cost of kinghood built from fear. You become a barometer for storms, and every pressure drop plays the strings of your ribs. He tightened the borders again, just a little. He visited the night libraries and asked the stars for a second opinion. He tried to be kinder to Rhea, and failing kindness, tried to be fair. Fairness without kindness is a dry loaf. It fills, but no one reaches for seconds. Rhea ate it anyway, because a mother takes what is offered and makes of it what she can. And through all this, the contrast became not merely philosophical, but felt. Titans, who measured their days in cliffs and centuries, began to notice moments. A look across a room, a breath between two words, a pause at the top of a staircase before putting a foot down. The new gods would be moment makers. They would seize those slivers of time and shape them. This unnerved the old house. It also excited it, though few admitted that out loud. Change has a fragrance, clean rain on dust, and sometimes even the most careful elder inhales a little deeper. At last, the social air turned the color of inevitable. Not sudden, not panicked. The way summer turns toward harvest. Days still bright, evenings a shade earlier, a chill just under the sweetness of fruit. The councils continued. The festivals were observed. The balances balanced. But in the pauses, a law's comma, a river's bend, a mother's blink, stood the truth. Children do not stay unborn. Songs do not stay unsung. Doors that are meant to open will eventually remember how. When you fall asleep tonight, imagine you are standing in that old hall of Titans at dusk. The pillars are warm from the day. The mosaics on the floor hold the last light like quiet fire. Somewhere far away, bronze kisses bronze and then goes still. In this pause, before the first thunder of a new weather, the society breathes in. It has been breathing in for a very long time. The next breath will be out. That is how a world makes room for another world inside it. Not with a roar, but with a release. And once the release begins, the house will not break. It will open. The old order will not be dishonored. It will become foundation. This too is law. This too is mercy. And so, with the night leaning gently against the windows and the fig tree agreeing with a small motion of one leaf, the age of Titans waits, aware now that waiting is not the same as staying. Sleep a little, listener. The catastrophe is coming, but in our telling, it will sound like rain on a roof you trust. Before storms, good houses settle, and this one, vast, venerable, has begun to settle. I am still the keeper of memories, and I will keep my voice low. Think of this as history, told with a blanket over its shoulders. We step now from the personal rooms of the Titans into a long hall where epochs hang like quiet tapestries. On these walls is the story called Titanomachy, the war between the elder strength and the younger will, the old house and the new roof. It is the storm that remade the weather, and yet, in memory, it can be listened to gently, like rain that once frightened you and now helps you sleep. Before war, there is always breathing. There is the held breath of an age that has lasted too long, and the first small exhale of what must come next. Zeus grew in a hidden cradle, fed on mountain milk, schooled by rock and wind. Rhea's lullabies were his first laws. When he was ready, not rushed, not delayed, he descended from secrecy with a quiet purpose, not simply to pull down a father, but to untie a knot that had tightened around the world's throat. Wisdom does not shout. It slips into rooms like a lantern. Some call her Meti, counsel in a cup. Others say she is the instinct you trust when reason grows narrow. Guided by such gentleness, Zeus returned to the house of Cronus unrecognized. He did not arrive with a sword between his teeth. He arrived with a remedy, an unwinding, a draft, a charm, a mercy with a bitter taste. When Cronus drank, the locked doors within him opened. One by one, the swallowed children were returned to the light. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, each arriving with the quiet astonishment of dawns long overdue. Rhea gathered them with hands that knew both grief and relief. The house of the Titans felt its timbers sigh. Freed children do not remain children. They took their first true breaths and stood, not as avengers, but as keepers of a balance that had been tilted too far toward fear. The world, alert and listening, brought allies from the oldest cellars. The Cyclopes, smiths of thunder and sight, and the hundred-handed Hecatoncheires, steadiers of horizons, whom Uranus had shut away long ago. When Zeus opened those buried rooms, light spilled across old wounds. Gratitude is a forge. The Cyclopes repaid their freedom by giving gifts shaped from elements at their hottest truth. To Zeus, the thunderbolt, a coiled brightness that speaks the language of decision. To Poseidon, the trident, three-pronged persuasion of waters. To Hades, the helm of shadow, a grace that moves unseen where endings begin. These were not weapons for cruelty. They were tools for clear work. So began the 10 years of war, 10 long turnings of season and stone. Understand that war, in those days, did not mean what human wars would come to mean. There were no maps with pins, no drums on horses, no letters sent home in trembling hands. The Titanomachy was an argument of elements, sky and earth debating with lightning and mountain, ocean and fire giving testimony under a judge's storm. It thundered, yes, but the thunder had grammar. It tore, yes, but the tearing followed a pattern, a patient remaking rather than a rage. On the side of the Titans, the world stood heavy with history. Cronus took the field not as a caricature of greed, but as a man who had mistaken holding for protecting. Around him assembled the elder strengths, Coeus, with his deep thinking, Cryas, with his stern borders, Hyperion, with a disciplined light that could harden shadows into spears. Oceanus flowed the perimeter, reluctant to be war's wall, and Themis, O Themis, she stood apart, her scales catching every glint of motive. Rhea prayed not for victory, but for mercy on all sides, and mercy has a way of being answered last and longest. On the side of the Olympians, the air itself quickened. Zeus stood at the center not like a tyrant, but like weather choosing to break. Hera's presence gathered order out of chaos. Demeter steadied the ground, so that what must fall would fall cleanly, and what must rise would find good soil. Poseidon moved the seas with deliberation, calling waves not to smash but to shift. Hades, in his new helm, learned the art of passing where fury cannot see, turning the tide with touches no one noticed until afterward. Hestia kept the small fires, because even in war, someone must mind the hearth, and the hearth is where victory becomes a future rather than a wound. The first clashes sounded like far thunder on a hot afternoon, a promise, not yet the storm itself. Mountains shrugged and became different mountains. Forests bent so violently that they remembered the bend for a century. Lightning spoke in long sentences. The ground opened its dark mouth, and then, when the sentence was complete, closed it again with respect. If you were there, you would have smelled clean rain and iron, wet stone, and a sweetness like crushed green things. You would have felt not panic, but gravity, a rightness at work, like a bone being set, with a stern, necessary pressure. There were setbacks. Zeus learned that brashness makes poor weather. Cronus learned that control cannot outlast change. Themis warned them both in glances that felt like soft bells. At critical moments, old rivers refused to change their beds, and newly lifted peaks grew suddenly tired and lay down again. Even Zeus failed some days, his lightning overreaching like a sentence too long to hold its meaning. He learned to shorten the bolt, to aim for clarity rather than spectacle. War teaches even the sky. At the turning of the 5th year, a stillness fell like snowfall. Both sides paused. Not a truce, an inhalation. In that hush, allegiance shifted. From the stream, called Styx, came a quiet procession. Styx herself and her children, Nike, victory, Kratos, resolve, Bia, force, Zelos, zeal. They stood with Zeus, not for conquest, but for renewal, because the river that binds oaths knows which promises are meant to breathe. Zeus honored them with a seriousness that would echo into all later covenants. By Styx, you would swear what you must keep. The war resumed, now with the feeling of a door that finally admits the key. The Cyclopes worked feverishly, not to make more power, but to refine it. Thunder tempered until it could peel a mountain like fruit without crushing the valley below. The Hecatoncheires took the field, and the field steadied. Their 100 hands did not fling rocks as tantrums. They placed stone upon stone until a barrage became a careful architecture of pressure. Against that patient building, the Titan line began to waver, not break, waver, which is how breaking begins when the breaking is not a collapse, but a change of heart. Hyperion held his ground. His light narrowed into lances that kept chaos at a respectful distance. Cronus argued with Zeus in the language of comets, thought against thought, and some nights the stars hung so low you could have plucked them like fruit. Creus tried to draw a new border in the middle of the sky, a line beyond which change would not pass. But change is not a trespasser. It is the owner returning with a different key. Oceanus, encircling all, sent out long, sighing tides that neither side could fully command. They washed the edges, reminding everyone that ends are also beginnings. Some say the final turn came when Zeus, standing on a ridge that had not existed the day before, understood at last that victory would not be the silencing of the past. It would be the arranging of it. He lifted his arm, and the thunderbolt that sprang forth was not the loudest of the war. It was the most articulate. It reached Cronus and did not unmake him. It stilled him. The scythe rang once against stone, and then was quiet. Around them, The elder Titans laid down the practices that had once kept the world safe and had lately kept it small. They did this not as cowards, but as craftsmen closing a shop at evening, a dignity in the locking of the door. When the dust of mountains settled into new mountains, judgment followed. And here we must be careful, because judgment can sound like cruelty when told in quick voices. We will tell it slowly. Tartarus, the deep room under rooms, was chosen not as a place to forget the Titans, but as a place to remember them without letting them rule. Imagine a cavern, vast as silence, not cold with spite, but cool with the air of endings. Bronze gates, Poseidon's work, resilient and ringing, were set in place. The Hecatoncheires, who knew how to steady horizons, became the keepers there, not to gloat, but to guard. Their task was simple and grave: to hold the old strength kindly where it could do no harm, and where its echo could teach without commanding. And teach it did. Even now, if you lie very still on a night when weather is changing, you may hear a sound like distant thunder that does not approach. That is the chorus of the Titans in Tartarus, voices large and low, speaking as history speaks, no longer issuing orders, only reminding. Their reign is finished. Their meaning is not. The world above grew quieter for their sleeping, not emptier. Zeus and his siblings stood then in a different world. The sky was still sky, the sea still sea, the earth still earth, but their relations had changed, the way a family changes when children become parents. Oaths were made, shares were given. Zeus took the open sky, Poseidon the deep water, Hades the quiet governance of under earth. Hera shaped the art of rule into a home. Demeter taught the ground a patient calendar. Hestia kept a fire that would never be for war, only for welcome. Themis walked among them and found the scales lighter to carry. Rhea, at last, slept. If you stand very close to this tapestry, you will see symbols woven into its border. One shows a hand unclenching. The victory of the new order over primordial force is not the triumph of noise over silence, or of youth over age, but of breath over holding. The Titans are not evil in this telling. They are origin at the wrong speed for a world that has learned to move. The Olympians are not perfect. They are a promise to be kept daily. New order wins when it makes room, for rivers to flow, for dawn to arrive, for endings to be honored without letting them sit in the throne. History loves to repeat this pattern with different costumes. You can feel it in your own species' long story. How new thought must often argue with the comfort of old certainty. How science revises a beloved map. Art redraws the face of beauty. Justice asks customs to share their chair. The Titanomachy is there when a city learns to lower its voice and listen to those it had taught not to speak. It is there when a stubborn method steps aside for a kinder one. It is there when a family admits that the rules that kept them safe now keep them small, and they agree, gently, to change them. In these parallels, remember the tempo. The point is not the clash. The point is the arrangement that follows. In human time, you will see the noisy part on banners and front pages. But the real victory happens later, in kitchens and classrooms and quiet offices, where a new order proves it can keep bread on tables and light in windows. Zeus's thunderbolt is not useful every day. Most days, you need Hestia's steady flame, Demeter's calendar, Themis's scale set down and left alone. The Titanomachy also teaches where to put strength. The Cyclopes gave tools that cut, but they also forged the skill to use them with restraint. Poseidon's trident can rake the seabed. but it can also guide a current like a shepherd's staff. Hades's helm can sneak, but it can also spare. There are battles you win by not being seen, harms you prevent by passing like a shadow between two angers. Even Zeus learned that the shortest bolt can be the kindest, because it leaves less scorch and more sky. Look again at Tartarus with a soft eye. Some retellings make it only a pit, but in this lullaby history, it is a library of endings. The Hecatoncheires turn the keys, like monks keeping time. The voices of the Titans roll and recede, and when thunder visits the world above, it does so as counsel, not command. If ever you fear change, sit with that sound a moment. It says, "We were immense. We did our part. Now rest, lets others do theirs." And what of Cronus? In memories that choose to be merciful, he sits sometimes with his hands open on his knees, scythe forgotten, listening to the rain beyond bronze. He is no longer the architect of fear. He is a stone learning, finally, how to be a garden's border. Useful, modest, letting flowers spill over him without protest. In some seasons, festivals will be held that gently remember him not as a devourer, but as a measure of time. A caution engraved on the clock. Hold your children loosely. Let the future happen. When the war is over in a story, the story is never over. The Olympians will have quarrels and reconciliations, their own shadows to manage, their own habits to break. But the great pattern has been set, new after old, order after origin, breath after holding. And because the pattern is set, you can sleep. You need not monitor the horizon for a storm every night. The storm taught the sky how to be kind. So let us close this perspective with a soundscape you can carry into your rest. Hear the echo of the last thunder drift into distance. Hear the soft ring of bronze that means the gates are shut, not slammed. Hear the sea fold itself against the shore, once, twice, like a blanket being tucked. Above, the constellations stand in their places, some new, some ancient, quiet as kindly teachers waiting for morning class. On a high peak, Zeus sets down the thunderbolt. It is not needed. On a lower slope, Hestia lifts a small flame and shields it with her hand. That is enough. What you have listened to is not simply a myth of gods. It is the practice of renewal, told in a language of mountains and storms so that even a drowsy heart can understand. The Titans are asleep beneath you, not angry now, only vast and resting. The new order keeps watch without pacing the floor. The world breathes in, the world breathes out, and in that gentle rhythm, older than fear, younger than hope, you can breathe too. I remain your keeper of memories, but my voice will grow a shade firmer, like a hand tightening just enough to guide you safely across a narrow bridge. This is the hour when pressure becomes motion, when a whisper becomes a wind. The world has held its breath for a long time. Now we feel the lungs strain. Cronus is not born a monster. He is a steward who is mistaken holding for protecting. The prophecy's thread wraps tighter around him, and with every loop, love finds less air. When Hestia is born, small as a sunrise inside a teacup, Rhea offers the child to the new king, a father with weather in his chest. The room smells of milk and warm stone. For a moment, Cronus is only a man staring at a miracle. Then fear touches his shoulder. The old stories say he swallows the infant. Let us tell that truth gently. Imagine a desperate magic, a closing of the fist where there should have been an embrace, a frantic attempt to fold the future inward and keep it from flying away. Rhea's cry travels the length of a valley. In the rafters of the world, owls turn their heads. Time passes, the way mountains pass, slowly, then all at once. Demeter arrives with the breath of fields, and again Cronus performs the cruel mercy he believes is duty. Hera, bright with a queen's gaze. Hades, grave and steady even as an infant. Poseidon, salted with sea dreams, all taken in, hidden away inside the body of their father, as if his ribs were doors to locked rooms. The palace of Titans becomes quiet in a way that alarms even the stones. Rhea, whose arms have learned to feel suddenly empty, walks the corridors with the calm of a woman who has decided to remain merciful even while mercy is not returned. In council, Themis weighs silence against silence and finds them not the same. Oceanus circles the world more slowly, as if to say, let this not be the only way. Coeus stands at a balcony and counts stars not for beauty now, but to know how many are still willing to bear witness. Hyperion pours dawn with disciplined tenderness. Even light begins to step softly. When the last pain becomes too much to name, Rhea goes to Gaia. Roots tangle like knotted hair in that deep chamber. The Earth Mother listens, and her answer is not thunder. It is a plan shaped like a lullaby. A stone is lifted from the heart of the mountain, rough, heavy, the weight of a truth you do not want and cannot deny. Wrap this as you would a child, Gaia says, and keep safe the one who follows. The cave chosen for the birth faces an honest wind. Amalthea waits there, warm and patient, with milk enough to soften fate. When Zeus comes, eyes bright as the first morning that knew its own name, the curates dance outside, bronze meeting bronze, a music of protection loud enough to mislead any listening fear. Rhea swaddles the stone, and its weight teaches her something new. That deception, when married to mercy, can be the gentlest kind of defiance. Cronus takes the bundle. The act repeats. The desperate inward folding. The attempt to keep tomorrow inside today. But tomorrow is already breathing, soft and even, in a cave where goat bells ring like distant stars. Years stack. In the hidden cradle, Zeus learns to laugh at shadows and to respect them. He listens to Rhea's songs, to Amalthea's patient chewing, to the hush between the curate's shield beats. He grows not only in strength, but in listening, a boy woven from attention. In the palace above, Cronus grows thinner with vigilance. Fear, poorly fed, still eats. The corridors shine with cleanliness and hum with unplayed music. The turn at last arrives, not with an army, but with a cup. Metis, counsel in a quiet shape, guides Zeus to the table of his father. The young god's face is the face of weather that has decided to change, not angry, simply inevitable. He offers a draft that tastes like an apology and works like a key. Cronus drinks, locks open. Rooms long sealed by fear swing wide on their hinges, and light rejoins the world. Hestia comes back first, warm as a hearth remembered after a winter road. Demeter follows, carrying the smell of ground that has decided to forgive. Hera returns with brows set in a line that means order can be kind. Hades arrives wrapped in the clean hush of endings done properly. Poseidon steps out drenched in tides, trident implicit in the way his hands ask water to obey. Rhea gathers them and does not count. Counting is for scarcity. Reunion is for breathing. A house that has kept its music in boxes cannot remain quiet when the lids come off. In the star libraries, Phoebe writes a small word, begin. The Cyclopes wake their forges with gratitude that sounds like summer thunder. The 100-handed rise from long patience and stretch. The horizon steadies, welcoming their return to purpose. Zeus and his siblings look at one another and understand, without speech, without plan, that the time of standing up has entered the room. The first storms of the Titanomachy form in the distance. You can hear them the way you hear rain on far hills, a promise with its fist unclenched. Cronus takes the field, surrounded by a geometry of loyalty. Coeus and Creus anchor flanks with thought and border. Hyperion narrows light until it keeps chaos at a respectful distance. Oceanus will not be cornered into battle, but he lends his steadying presence to the world's edges. Themis stands apart with scales poised. Even war must weigh its steps. The Olympians answer not with numbers, but with tempo. Hera gathers the unruly air into corridors that carry commands cleanly. Demeter plants footholds in the tumbling ground, so no one must win by breaking the earth that will later need to feed everyone. Poseidon raises waves that move rather than smash, turning enemy force sideways, wasting it into spray. Hades disappears where he must, reappears where change needs a gentle nudge. Hestia keeps a flame in every safe house, every cave where a mother steadies a frightened child. Zeus learns the distance between spectacle and precision. His first bolts are long, theatrical. His later bolts are brief truths that say exactly what needs saying and leave the rest of the sky unburned. The war builds. Mountains shrug and are different. Valleys practice being oceans for a day and then remember to be valleys. The scent is iron and wet leaves. The taste of the air, a clean coin on the tongue. Titans push with the endurance of continents. Gods move with the decisiveness of weather. The Cyclopes' gifts sing in skilled hands. The 100-handed do not throw tantrums of stone. They place it, pressure where pressure belongs, until lines of might begin to waver. At the turn's hot center, Styx arrives, bringing oath itself. Nike, Kratos, Bia, Zelos stand beside Zeus, not for conquest, but for completion. It is a small procession, quiet as a signature, and it changes everything. Promises gain weight. Steps gain meaning. Where the younger gods move, the floor of the world agrees to hold. By the 10th year, thunder has grammar. Lightning edits rather than shouts. Even Cronus feels the argument wearing a new shape. He tries once more to make a border in the sky, and finds that borders made of fear are chalk lines in rain. The final clash is not the loudest, it is the most articulate. Zeus lifts his arm. A bolt goes forth like a sentence, at last set correctly, landing not to annihilate, but to still. The scythe rings once, a single clean note, and lies quiet. The field does not exult. It exhales. Resolution judgment can sound sharp when told in quick voices. Let us narrate it as a careful laying down of tools after long work. The elder titans are not erased. They are relocated to Tartarus, the cool room under rooms, a place designed not for cruelty, but for containment with respect. Bronze gates stand where endings should stand. Firm, ringing, never slammed. The 100-handed keep watch with the steadiness of mountains putting an arm around the dark. Their task is to hold history where history cannot command, to let the echo teach without letting it rule. Listen, in that depth, the Titans' voices change from orders to reminders. They become the far thunder you hear on calm nights, the kind that does not approach, the kind that lets you sleep deeper, because someone vast is talking far away about how the world used to be. Cronus sits with his hands open on his knees. The scythe has become an idea he no longer needs. He learns, even there, that a boundary can be a garden edge rather than a wall. Above, the air stands newly washed. Zeus does not hold the sky alone. He shares. Poseidon receives the waters, Hades the under-earth where things finish properly and then become part of future soils. Hera shapes governance into a home rather than a cage. Demeter writes a gentle calendar the ground can keep without strain. Hestia's small, steady flame moves from house to house, teaching the simple craft of enough. Themis sets her scales down. They rest. Balance that must be carried forever was never balance. Rhea, who has wept and waited and sung and deceived for love, finally sleeps. Her rest spreads like warm milk into cold stone. Even Oceanus seems to loosen, his long encircling current a touch softer at the world's rim. Hyperion's dawns arrive with less drill and more welcome. Coeus and Phoebe catalog stars, not as orders of battle, but as children's names on a wall in a school that will open every morning. Creus keeps thresholds as doors meant to swing, teaching guards to be greeters. In human tales, this is the place where trumpets blare. In our sleep story, we prefer a quieter ceremony. Picture a high rigid evening. Zeus sets the thunderbolt down, the way a craftsman sets down a chisel. Grateful, respectful, aware that it is a tool, not a throne. Below, valleys remember being oceans and are not offended. They have learned that roles can change without shame. The sea folds itself against the land, once, twice, a blanket tucked. Walk with me through the new house. Floors are warm. Windows are open. In the courtyards, vines climb with confidence. Children, gods, and the little sparks who will someday be human, learn the new games. How to disagree without breaking the world. How to stop when you've done enough. How to make room for the small voice at the back of the room that knows the necessary truth. Hestia moves among them, straightening nothing, merely warming the space until everyone remembers how to be kind. Do not fear the echo underfoot. It is history, not a returning storm. Tartarus does not hunger. It holds. When clouds gather, they do so with the consent of a sky that has learned its lesson. Power exists to arrange mercy. When lightning comes, it writes short, clean notes and leaves the page legible. When thunder speaks, it is a baritone amen to a season that has chosen to turn. Breathe with the world now, in and out. The age of clutching has yielded to the age of keeping promises, keeping hearths, keeping balance without chains. The catastrophe is past, and it sounds, in memory, like rain on a roof you trust. The halls that groaned are quiet. The gates that needed closing are closed, properly and without malice. Above them, a garden is being planted. If you listen carefully, you can hear the simplest music. Sandals on clean stone, a kettle starting to sing, someone laughing in a kitchen where the windows face east. The new order is not a fanfare. It is the comfort of arrangements that will hold until kindness asks them to change again. The Titans rest, immense and unresentful. The gods keep watch without pacing. The world breathes, steady, even, unafraid. And you, with your head on your pillow, can breathe with it, in and out. Let your own inner councils adjourn. Let your borders soften from walls into thresholds. The war has become memory. The memory has become guidance. The guidance is gentle enough to carry you toward sleep. I am still the keeper of memories, and I'll let the pace ease now, the way waves settle after they've told the shore everything they needed to say. When the long argument of the elements had said its last clear sentence, Zeus stood not as a conqueror shouting from broken stone, but as a craftsman laying down his tool. The air around him smelled of wet rock and clean rain. One task remained, to make freedom complete. He began with his own, his sisters and brothers, once locked away by a frightened love. Their return had started with a draft and a key, but resolution is more than a door swinging open. It is the careful arranging of what steps through. Zeus went to Hestia first, placing in her hands a quiet trust. The hearths of the world, the small, steady fires that make homes out of houses and futures out of nights. To Demeter, he offered fields that were ready to forgive, calendars gentle enough for seeds to keep. To Hera, he gave a place beside him, not as ornament, but as order, rule made domestic, law with a human face. Poseidon received the deep persuasion of waters, Hades, the solemn grace of endings done properly, where rest becomes part of tomorrow's soil. The family was not only restored, it was positioned, each strength set where it could do good without strain. Then came the settling of the elder strength. Cronus and the Titans, their service finished, were lowered, not flung, into Tartarus, the cool room beneath rooms. Bronze rang softly as the gates closed, not a slam, but a seal. The Hecatoncheires took their posts like mountain ranges, learning the patience of watchmen. Down there, the Titans' voices changed from command to counsel. A far thunder that does not approach, the kind that lets the upper world sleep, because the past has found a place to rest. With the storm filed in memory, the world lifted its face to a different light. Olympus rose, not merely as a mountain of stone, but as a throne of arrangement, a high terrace where decisions could see far without forgetting what lay close. The climb was steep, yes, but the summit did not gloat. Its halls were wide, its windows open, its floors warm from Hestia's care. From there, Zeus learned the art that comes after victory, the art of keeping. Lightning returned to its case. Listening took its place at the head of the table. Order spread outward like morning. Rivers remembered their banks and were glad of them. Winds chose their corridors and traveled at kinder angles. The ground, no longer bracing for impact, relaxed into fertility. In cities not yet born, an echo of this calm would one day be felt as the ease of a door that fits its frame, a street that drains without flooding, a family whose rules are clear and merciful. Balance doesn't always arrive with spectacle. Sometimes it shows up as a field that yields exactly enough grain and a roof that doesn't leak when it rains. Zeus marked the shares with reverence, not greed. Sky to himself, sea to Poseidon, the under-earth to Hades. Above and between, Hera tuned the manners of power. Demeter taught the seasons their patient steps. Hestia walked house to house, palms out, warming what should be warm and leaving alone what should be left alone. Themis set her scales on a table, and for the first time in a long time, did not have to hold them. They stood level by themselves, which is how you know a piece is real. As for Cronus, in kind tellings, he sits with open hands in the cool dim. The scythe remembered only as a lesson etched on the edge of thought, that holding is not the same as protecting, that love without trust becomes a lock. He does not vanish. He becomes context, the old strength at last in the right room, teaching by echo rather than decree. So Olympus did not replace the world, it organized it. Old fear unclenched, and in the space where its fingers had been, gentler work could begin. Planting, promising, keeping watch without pacing the floor. The sky learned brevity. Thunder understood the grace of silence. Even lightning, when called, wrote short, clean notes and left the page legible. Listen now, to the sound the world makes when it is properly arranged. Water folding onto shore with the soft assurance of a blanket being tucked. Trees exhaling together as dusk arrives. Distant bronze ringing once and then resting. Steps in a hall where no one is running anymore. This is not the hush of emptiness, but the quiet of things in their places. The crisis is over. The family is free. The throne sits on Olympus, not as a weight, but as a promise. And the promise is simple: to keep the breathing even, day into night, season into season, laughter into sleep. If you place your head back on the pillow now, you can feel that rhythm teaching your own breath its pace. In and out. The world is ordered. Let the mind set down its scythe. Let the heart take the gentler share. Peace has learned the room. It will stay. I am still the keeper of memories, and now I will lower the lamp. We have walked through thunder and council, through high rooms and deep caverns. The house is quiet again. This is the hour for meaning, softly gathered, never forced. Let us place the story where it belongs, not only in the past, but in the steady rhythm of your own breath. Think of the Titans as primordial strength, the first muscles of the world, the pressure that made mountains rise and oceans remember their shores. They are the weight that reality needs in order to hold a shape: gravity, depth, endurance. They are the yes of existence, the raw decision to be. Think of the Olympians as arrangement and mind, the art of giving that strength a pattern it can live with, the gentle insistence that power should become protection, that heat should become hearth, that lightning should say something clear and brief and kind. Titans are the heartbeat. Olympians are the pulse taken, understood, and guided. No one truly loses in a telling like this, not if we understand it. The elder force is not destroyed. It is transformed. The younger order is not a tyrant. It is a promise to tend the garden that strength prepared. Between them stretches a bridge called time, and over that bridge we carry our lives, one careful step at a time. When we honor both, origin and order, power and mercy, we walk without stumbling. Now bring the myth closer, so close you can feel its breath on your cheek. Each of us meets our own Titanomachy. They do not arrive with bronze and thunder. They show up as choices and changes, as rooms that have become too small for the person you are becoming. A job that once kept you safe now keeps you still. A habit built to protect you begins to lock you in. An old certainty asks to retire with dignity so that a wiser kindness can take its place. The conflict is not a war to be won. It is a rearrangement to be allowed. In those moments, the Titan is the part of you that says, hold tighter, build thicker walls, keep everything exactly as it is. The Olympian is the part that says, open the window, let in air, keep what still serves, set down what has grown heavy. Neither voice must be an enemy. Fear is only asking for assurance. Let reason answer without scolding. Strength only wishes to protect. Let tenderness show it how. You already know how this works. You have practiced it in small ways. Cleaning a drawer, deleting an old file, speaking a truth as brief and merciful as lightning when a longer speech would only scorch. You have practiced it in larger ways, apologizing, changing course, forgiving, allowing a chapter to end so that rest can begin. Each time, a personal Titan learns Tartarus, not punishment, but placement. Each time, an inner Olympus takes shape, not a tower of pride, but a vantage point where you can see farther and therefore worry less. Societies do this too. New science asks old certainty to share the table. New art asks tradition to make room on the wall. New justice asks custom to loosen its belt and breathe. When the change is gentle and brave, the world does not shatter. It opens. We remember the lesson of Themis. Balance that has to be gripped is not balance. True balance stands upright on its own, like a scale set down and left in peace. If tonight you are carrying a private storm, unfinished conversations humming like far thunder, tasks stacked like uneasy stones, let the myth become a method. Name what is pure strength and still needed. Keep it. Name what is only fear, pretending to be safety. Thank it, then set it down. Keep a small fire for what must be warm. Kindness, boundaries, rest. Close the loud armory. Open the quiet kitchen. You do not need a scythe to guard your future. You need a table where truth can sit without armor. Notice how the story teaches tempo. First the shock, then the surge, and at last, the settling. This is how bodies calm, how cities heal, how mornings learn not to startle birds. There is wisdom in short bolts and long silences. There is wisdom in gates that close with a ring, not a slam. There is wisdom in Hestia's way. Keep the flame small and constant. Let it travel from house to house until the world feels held, not managed. And now, the poem that sleeps under the facts. The Titans have not vanished. They sleep in the deep rooms of the earth, vast and unresentful, like old engines cooling after a long journey. When weather changes, we sometimes hear them turn in their sleep. The low roll of thunder that does not approach. A tremor underfoot like a giant's patient sigh. These are not threats. They are reminders. They tell us, beginnings were strong, so that continuings could be gentle. They tell us, hold when you must, release when you can. Above them, Olympus is not only a peak in a sky you cannot touch. It is any high, quiet place in you where breath grows even. It is the hill you climb when you choose clarity over drama, the terrace where you stand when you decide that the right word is the kind word, the precise word, the word that leaves the page legible. From there, you can see storms coming early enough to bring the plants inside and latch the windows without hurry. From there, you can watch the world keep its promises, day into night, season into season, love into rest. If you like, imagine yourself walking at dusk on that slope. The stone is still warm. The air tastes faintly of rain and pine. Somewhere far below, a small flame moves from home to home, and at each threshold, someone opens the door and smiles. Up here, the constellations look like notes on a patient staff. The sky reads itself slowly, without missing a beat. You set the thunderbolt of your day, your tools, your worries, down beside you. They are not needed now. What is needed is smaller and nearer, the way your shoulders loosen when you remember that you are carried by a story older than anxiety. Listen, water folding onto shore, once, twice, again, leaves consenting to the night, a bell a long way off, one ring, no hurry. These are the sounds of a world arranged. Between them is the silence where meaning sits. In that silence, breathe, in and out. Think of someone you love, safely asleep. Think of a promise you can keep tomorrow without effort. Think of the oldest kindness you know. Perhaps a hand on your forehead, or the exact right cup of tea, or a voice that never needed to be loud in order to be believed. Let that kindness be Hestia's flame in you. Let it travel room to room, easing the corners, smoothing the blankets, turning the night from an empty space into a home. If, beneath all this, You still sense the slow breathing of the Titans. Accept it. The earth has allowed its memories. We are too. Place them where they belong, beneath the garden, not over it. Let their strength be soil. Plant in it, grow from it, and when thunder rolls on a gentle evening, nod back. Say, thank you for the beginning. We will take it from here with care. The lamp grows low. The story has walked you to the threshold where thought becomes rest. The old order is sleeping well. The new order is keeping watch without pacing. The gates are quiet. The hearth is bright. The sky has edited itself to a few kind stars. Breathe again. Easy. Unforced. The Titans dream deep under mountains. Olympus hums softly above. Between them, you. A living bridge, strong and arranged, ready to cross from waking into the calm country where every promise is as simple as breath. In and out. When you are ready, step through. I'm still the keeper of memories, and now my voice becomes a hush. We will not think anymore. We will drift. Picture the deep room under rooms, Tartarus, cool, dark, and kind. The Titans sleep there, vast and unresentful, like mountains breathing under blankets of stone. Their breath rolls once, then disappears into the earth. Above them, Olympus rests beneath a thin, silver wind. The night runs its soft hand over marble and pine. Nothing hurries, nothing asks. Inhale, slowly. Exhale, more slowly. Let the images repeat until they make a cradle. Tartarus, dark and gentle. Sleeping Titans, quiet, steady. A faint wind over Olympus. Shh, shh. A small hearth light, making every room warm enough for dreams. Inhale, and let the shoulders soften. Exhale, and let the jaw unclasp. Oceanus circles the world like a calm thought that never ends. His waters do not crash. They fold. Waves move in, then out, tucking the shore the way someone tucks a blanket under your chin. Inhale, and feel the ribs open like gates on their hinges. Exhale, and let them close without effort. If any noise remains from the day, let it fall downward, past roots and rocks, into that cool underroom where old thunder becomes memory. Down there, the Titans turn once in their sleep, and everything you no longer need turns with them and goes still. Inhale. Gather only what is soft. Exhale. Release what is sharp. Above, the wind over Olympus speaks very quietly. Rest now. Hestia's small flame glows in distant kitchens you can't see. Someone pours water. Someone sets down a cup. Even the stars blink slower. Inhale, counting softly. 1, 2. Exhale. 3, 4, 5. Blessing now, like warm light through closed eyelids. May your sleep be calm as the boundless ocean of Oceanus. May your rest be as deep as the Titans' sleep in eternity. May your dreams be guided by gentle winds that pass over Olympus and never disturb, only soothe. May your heart keep the shortest lightning, the clear thought that harms nothing and leaves the sky unburned. May your home hold Hestia's ember, small, steady, enough. Inhale, as if the night is breathing you. Exhale, as if the earth is humming you to sleep. Your hands grow heavy. Your feet remember the floor is far away. The bed learns your shape and agrees. Thought loosens its laces. One by one, the rooms of the mind dim. The hall of plans. The stare of questions. The little window of worry. Click, click, click. All closed for the night. Tartarus. Dark. Titans. Sleeping. Wind over Olympus. Shh, shh. Inhale. A thread of cool air. Exhale. A ribbon of warmth. If a stray memory knocks, let Hecatoncheires, kind sentries of the deep, take it by the hand and show it to a quiet chair. It can sit. It does not have to speak. The door remains gently closed. One more blessing, softer. May peace settle on your brow, like evening on a field. May your breath keep even time with the world. In, out. May you wake only when morning arrives with the politeness of Hyperion's first light. Now my words thin. They are only feathers falling through a still room. Inhale. Exhale. The Titans sleep. Olympus breathes. Oceanus keeps watch. The night holds. Inhale. Exhale. Good night.